What's going on, everybody? Hope your day is going good. Hope life's going good. Hope you're drinking your water. Hope you're eating your vegetables. Hope you're hanging around the right group of people. I just hope you're doing good overall, because I'm doing pretty good myself. And as always, I'm back with more content, and this one is going to be specifically related to another Flutter package. It's funny, I've been using this Flutter package for quite some time now, but I've never discussed it. So I was like, you know what, why don't I wrap you up talking about one of my favorite Flutter packages. And this Flutter package is called TimeAgo. Essentially what this is going to do is it allows us to convert a specific date in Flutter and display it as humanized text. So I'll explain a little bit exactly what that means in a little bit, but just know that today we're going to be unpacking another Flutter package. So without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, so like I said, the package that we're going to be discussing today is called TimeAgo. And like I mentioned, TimeAgo allows us to represent a Flutter datetime object and converts it into humanized text that's going to represent how far in the past this date occurred or how far in the future the date will occur. So for example, if you use any social media app, which I'm sure you have, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, whenever you make a post, the date is saved in the database for when that post was actually posted. However, it's not beneficial to then show the user a post from a month ago and say, this was posted on November 17th at 3:43 p.m. It's not really user friendly, right? It's much better to instead say, this was posted 1 month ago, or 3 weeks ago, or 2 days ago, or 1 hour ago. So TimeAgo allows us to do just that. It's going to allow us to take whatever date that we give it and display how long ago this date occurred in a user-friendly text format. So I'm going to be demonstrating how we can actually use that today, and I'm going to explain even some more details about everything that TimeAgo allows us to do as far as customizing our own messages, creating our own locales and things such as that. And another thing to note is I'm also going to be explaining what how we can use locale in TimeAgo. So if you're not familiar with locale, it's pretty much specifications for how a user receives the information, whether it be the language that they're reading in, some of the UI components or whatever. And a locale can represent, it's usually like a geographical thing. So a locale might be English or Spanish or French. And it's just to make sure that people in France aren't seeing Spanish and people in Honduras aren't seeing English and things like that. So locale is also very important. So I'm going to be explaining how we use that as well. All right, so as always, whenever we're dealing with Flutter packages, there's only one place that I know of to get Flutter packages, and that's pub.dev. So we're going to head over there. As you can see, I already got it loaded up. You ain't got to worry about it. But it's currently on version 3.6.0, published 51 days ago. The likes are astronomical. The pub points are 130 out of 140, so that's pretty good. And it has a 99% popularity rating. So it's a very reputable Flutter package for us to be demonstrating today. The setup is fairly easy. Come over to your empty project, go to your pubspec.yaml file, add that import as you can see I have right here, build the app, and then now I have this empty page with just an empty scaffold, a stateful widget that has app bar with the title and then a center with a title as well. So the setup is out the way. Now we can get into the meat and potatoes of exactly what this Flutter package can do for us. So let's first demonstrate how we can use TimeAgo to simply display some text that happened a moment ago. So I'm going to use the TimeAgo package, create a list tile to display within a column widget, and we're going to pass in TimeAgo object, format that datetime object, and see what text we get. I'm going to go to the top up here, import the TimeAgo package, and we're going to alias it with TimeAgo just for convenience. And then I need to come in here and create a method that will build our list tile for us. We'll just call this build TimeAgo list tile. And that's going to return a list tile object for us. The title is going to be, we'll have it as English for now, just because we're going to make this dynamic and change it in the future. Then the subtitle is going to be another text widget that is going to be used for displaying that TimeAgo format method. So we'll call TimeAgo format, and pass in a date time object that represents right now. Let me add some comments here. I like to have some good indentation. And then we just need to replace this center widget in our scaffold with a column build method. And since it's within, called the build TimeAgo list tile method for building our list tile. Since that is within the build method, we can just do a hot reload. And as you can see in the simulator over here, it says English a moment ago. So that's out the way. That's essentially the very bare minimum of how you use TimeAgo for formatting date objects. Now, if we were to wait a minute from now, it'll say a minute from now. Matter of fact, let's just try that out. Actually, we'll do that in a second. With the most simplistic part of that out the way, let's turn up just a little bit and try to show some variety with the times that we're using. So I'm going to create a date time object that's going to represent a date that was 15 minutes in the past. So I'll go to the top of this demo page state class, create a variable called 15 minutes ago, and it's going to be a date time dot now subtract a duration of 15 minutes. So this date time object represents 15 minutes ago from right now. So within our build TimeAgo list tile, we're going to add a param for passing in a date, and we're going to use that date instead of the date time.now that was in that format method. And now we're just going to pass in that 15 minutes ago variable that we just made. So since the 15 minutes ago variable is placed outside of this build method, we can't hot reload, we have to refresh. But once we hit refresh, you can see in the simulator that it says English 15 minutes ago. Now, if I mess around with this and say hours 10, it'll tell me 10 hours ago. Or if I do days and say 366, it will say about a year ago. So you can kind of manipulate it to whatever you need it to be, but it'll automatically handle whatever dates pass into it and format it properly. All right, so we got 15 minutes ago. Like I said, we can also display humanized text for dates that are going to happen in the future. So just like this 15 minutes ago, we're going to create one that represents 15 minutes from now. So we'll call this 15 minutes from now, with date time.now, and we're going to add time this time. So not take away, but we're going to add it to going into the future. And that duration would be minutes 15, same as up above. And let me take this back to minutes. Now, all we need to do down here is call this method twice, but we're going to pass in the 15 minutes ago, or I'm sorry, 15 minutes from now, date time object. So we save that, it says a moment ago. Now that's not accurate because we should be seeing it in the future. And that's because there's an extra parameter on this format method called allow from now. And what that does is it lets TimeAgo know that any dates that are in the future, you don't want them to display them as a moment ago. You want them to say from now. So we'll just set that to true. Now we save that and refresh. We see that it says 15 minutes from now. Let me refresh this because it's still got the old English up top. All right, so now we have 15 minutes ago and 15 minutes from now. We got time in the future and time in the past, but we've only been using the English locale for now. Now let's try working with different locales, specifically in Spanish. So let's go, I'm going to create an enum that's going to represent different locale types for this demonstration. So within the lib directory, I'll call this locale type.dart. It's an enum, so we'll call it enum locale type. And we're going to build the enum first. And the enum is going to have two properties. We're going to have the name and then the locale. So the name will be English, the locale will be EN. For Spanish, the name will be Spanish, the locale will be ES. So let's see, final string name, final string locale. Let's call it locale. And then we'll pass these in here. And now we can start creating some of these enums. So the first one, we'll do English. That will be English and EN. So you can save that first to make sure that's working. Okay. And then we'll create another one for Spanish, and that's ES. Okay. So we have our enum. Now within here, we're not going to automatically default this text to say English, we're going to use the locale. So we'll pass in our Enum locale type, call it locale type. Change that title from English to be whatever the name is of the locale that we're using. And then gotta take that const off because it's no longer a constant. And then we also need to add a param for specifying the locale that TimeAgo is going to use for formatting this date. And that's going to be the locale that we specify in our Enum. So that's good there. Now we just need to do a little bit down here. So what I'm thinking is we're going to loop over all the different locale types that we have, which is right now just English and Spanish, and we're going to display these same list tiles for the future and the past, as well as a divider to make the UI a little bit more pristine. So we'll loop over the locales by creating a for loop while I is less than locale type dot values dot length I plus plus. Paste these in here, and now I need to pass in the locale type dot values at index I. So that one will start at English. It'll finish up with Spanish. And then I'm also going to add a divider just so we can see the difference between these. So hot reload, you can see now that we have English and Spanish. Spanish, I say 21 minutos, Spanish dentro de 9 minutos. So that time is a little off. I think that's because of the 15 minutes ago from the last time this app was built. So if we refresh this, it'll now say hace 15 minutos, which is 15 minutes ago, and then dentro de 15 minutos, which is 15 minutes from now in Spanish. All right, Spanish and English are out the way, but now let's add another locale, which is French. Now, something to keep in mind with the TimeAgo package is, by default, the only two locales that are added are English and Spanish. So for French, we have to do a little bit more work. We have to, not really much more work, but we have to set that locale on app initialization. So I'll show you how to do that. But first, let's create another locale for French, which is FR. Okay, and as you can already see, so we have French in here, but you see how it's displaying 18 minutes ago, 12 minutes from now. That's because there is no the French locale is not loaded by default. So it's just going to override, the English is just going to override that. So in order to do that, we need to initialize it. So we'll have a method in here called init TimeAgo. We can definitely think of a better name, but just roll with me for a second. And then we'll call TimeAgo dot set locale messages. And here we're going to specify, all right, what locale are you trying to set these messages for? And that is going to be for, if I could type locale type dot French dot locale. And then we are going to look up those French locale messages. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of them in TimeAgo. There's AM messages, AR messages, AZ. I'm not exactly sure what all these are. I'm pretty sure they're obviously other languages, but we just need the one for French. So we'll look up FR messages. Then we'll add this to the init state method. And now let's try refreshing this and see what we get. All right, so now French, the locale for French is now loaded. My French is not good at all. Environ 15 minutes, dice environ 15 minutes. I'm pretty sure I just slaughtered that, but you get the idea of that is how you would manually load in locales to use for the app. So any languages outside of English and Spanish, just know that you have to manually do those yourself. Now let's talk about the clock param that's on the format method. The clock param is a way for us to add an additional time modification to whatever time was passed in. So we've been passing in 15 minutes ago. If we've been passing in 15 minutes ago and 15 minutes from now, if we add this clock param and then specify a date time now object of 1 minute ago, so we'll say minutes 1, we're essentially saying we want an offset of 1 from whatever date that we passed in. So now if we refresh this, you see that it says 14 minutes ago and 16 minutes from now. Now you're probably wondering why exactly one says 14 minutes ago. Like, shouldn't they both say 16 or shouldn't they both? Well, it has something to do with the subtraction and the addition of the time that we use. So 15 minutes ago is technically 2 subtractions. If I'm thinking of this right, it's technically 2 subtractions. So it would become the 14 minutes. We're not going to go further down into the negative. We're eventually going to come back closer to 0. And then the 15 minutes from now is an addition and a subtraction. So we're not necessarily getting closer to 0. We're going further away from 0. We're going up. So that makes it 16 minutes from now. I hope I explained that right, because that was just a guess. But just know that clock can be used to add an additional offset for whatever time that we originally passed in. All right, the final step to showing you what TimeAgo can do, and probably my favorite feature that I didn't even know was possible, is creating our own custom messages. So for example, the French messages were an extension of a class called lookup messages. And these are essentially all of the messages that are applied to determining the suffix from now, suffix ago, prefix from now, what to display for minutes, hours, day, etc., etc. And the cool thing is we can do the same thing creating our own. So I'm going to create a new class called my custom messages.dart and call my custom messages, and we're going to extend the lookup messages class and then just do our import to get all those overrides. Okay, now you can go through and change all these, but for this demonstration, since we're only dealing with minutes, I'm only going to change the override for displaying minutes as well as the prefixes and suffixes. So I'm going to create a general message up top that says something like that. Let's say, or something. Now we need to look for our minutes override, and in here, what we want to return for minutes is the amount of minutes with the M next to it to represent minutes, and then we're going to just add in our custom message. Now, it's going to look kind of silly because I'm just using slang, but I'm just trying to show the ability to customize the messages for this TimeAgo package. Now we need to go to the prefix ago, and we can say it was probably in the past. We'll say that it was probably in the past, and the prefix from now, it was probably in the future. Then we need to modify the suffix, which is going to be is what's going to go at the end of the humanized text. So here I'll say it was definitely in the past, and I'm going to do the same thing for from now, but instead, okay, so these are the only methods that we need for using my custom messages. Now what we need to do is we need to create a new locale for our custom messages, and we'll just call this CL for custom locale, and we'll call it CL. And then come back to the demo page, and just like with the French set locale messages call that we had to do, our custom messages aren't loaded by default, so we need to do the same thing within our init TimeAgo method. So we'll call TimeAgo set locale messages. The locale that we're using is the custom locale, and we're going to be using my custom messages. Now, if we refresh this, you can see in the simulator, it says it was probably in the past 14 minutes or something like that. It was definitely in the past. So we have the prefix for ago, which is it was probably in the past, the 14 minutes override, which is the minutes, and then our message, which was or something like that, and then we have the suffix for the suffix ago, it was definitely in the past. So I know it reads weird, but it combined all those overrides to display the text that we needed. It was probably in the past 14 minutes or something like that. It was definitely in the past. It might be a little bit more readable if I add some dots here. And the same thing for the custom locale in the future. It was probably in the future, 15 minutes or something like that. It was definitely in the future. All right, so hopefully this video was a helpful demonstration of how you can actually use the TimeAgo Flutter package for displaying how far from now and how far in the past different dates occurred, as well as how you can customize them to your liking. So if this video was helpful, as always, please like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell whoever is trying to learn more about Flutter development, and give me some feedback on any Flutter packages that you'd love me to cover, or any other topics just related to Flutter in general. It can even be something outside of Flutter, maybe Firebase or anything like that, but just anything tech related that you want me to cover and discuss, and hopefully I can give a better explanation for that for you. Until next time, this is Trade Codes, as always, signing out.